All right. Anyway, so with that out of the way, we're gonna move on to a interview with our featured member interview. Yeah, let's try that again. So with that, we're gonna move on to our featured member interview. Am I having a stroke?
I believe in you.
Sorry. Kame Mafrapo, and welcome to the Eana Mokri podcast. On today's episode, we got several things lined up. So we got a little bit of Avatar film news, some space news, we got a featured member interview, and as always, our discussion in the Na'vi language. I can't have a conversation with myself and still claim to be a rational person, so here with me are three co-hosts. We have Eana, Plumps, and Awe. And I am Pamadek. So, first up, a little bit of meta news. We actually have a new website that you can find all things Eana Mokri at. Simple enough, it is eyanamokri.com. Alternatively, we have eyanamokri.learnna'vi.org. I believe the former redirects to the latter. So,
yeah.
eyanamokri.com. It's easier to remember. But yeah, there we will be sharing basically just all the episodes as well as anywhere that you can listen to them. Speaking of being able to listen to them anywhere, we are now also on the Apple podcast platform. I don't know how it relates to iTunes, but it's easy enough to say we're on iTunes, even though that's not wholly correct for branding reasons. But yes, we are now available on Apple Podcasts. You might be listening to us on Apple Podcasts. I know I am because I subscribe to us. If you are subscribed to us on Apple Podcasts, please give us a rating. Give us an honest one. And as we all know, the only honest rating is 5 stars because this is the best podcast ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
100%.
Sway.
Sway boom frato. All right, so getting the meta stuff out of the way, we have some actual Avatar movie news. Looks like Michelle Yeoh has been cast for the Avatar sequels as scientist Dr. Karina Mogue. We don't really know anything about this character, though they are... The timing of this suggests that they're going to be exclusively live action, which makes sense. The motion capture has already been captured, and now the remaining stuff is just all live action. So it suggests that Dr. Karina Mogue is not an Avatar driver, or if she is, we do not see her avatar at any point because she would have been part of mocap. Michelle's got a pretty storied film history.
Yeah, she does.
Her IMDb was quite long when I looked it up.
I literally just looked it up, and yes, it is quite long.
Yes. So they are continuing to cast people, and actually, as of the time of this recording, we actually have a little bit of like tangential timeline related news. It sounds like they still haven't started the live action filming, because just the other day we got via Instagram, I believe, a picture of Edie Falco visiting Disney Pandora for, I guess, immersion training. It was nice of James Cameron to send the original cast to, I believe, as Hawaii, for like, oh, get acquainted with like a rainforest.
Yes.
But now they can just send them to Disney Pandora because they have their own like park.
Well, it
but
is
anyways,
Pandora.
it is as close to Pandora as you could really get, and that's cool. But anyway, where I was going with that is we're still getting announcements of actors that are going to be in the Avatar sequels because it sounds like they haven't done the live action shooting yet. I remember Cameron said it was slated for spring, and technically it is spring until like sometime in June. But I was always under the impression that it'd begin in April.
Yeah, it's a little weird, but then I also kind of understand it because I'm not sure how the weather is in New Zealand. I don't know how the climate pattern is.
I don't know if they're going to be shooting anything outdoors in New Zealand though. like what parts of the film could they realistically shoot in an outdoor natural Earth environment? I thought they just did indoor sets at New Zealand.
If I recall. If I recall correctly, though, they did do outdoor stuff because some of the shots from the first Avatar are outdoors, like the one scene where they land at the remote station was filmed outside.
Yes, yeah, that's true. I think with the green screen in the back too.
I could have sworn that was done not outdoors, but like on a indoor set that was dressed to look like it was outdoors. But.
I think
I could be wrong.
I guess I don't see why they would go to New Zealand if they just did indoor sets.
New Zealand works gives a lot of incentives to film crews that are looking to film films there, whether it's outdoor or like inside. Like they give there's a lot of infrastructure, and I don't want to say tax breaks because it's international and that wouldn't really make sense, but like
it can be financial incentives.
A significant percentage of New Zealand's like GDP is filming, like not expenses, but gosh, I am quick on the draw with words today.
Just the kind of renting of the space or whatever to film
exactly.
Yeah. And also, weather is also located there, and they think they do the props at least. So that they
correct.
Can
that's actually a really good reason.
That's a fair point too. And well, the landscape is insanely cool. So
the landscape is incredibly cool if you're making a film on Earth. But
yes, well that's the thing is I feel
Avatar Earth isn't even that good looking. So
or on Middle Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, Middle Earth.
I feel like some of it could be filmed outdoors and then just things like the floating mountains added in. Like, I'm wondering if a lot of the coastal scenes will be exactly that, if there's like anything human related involved. Like if it's a human on a ship, it might be filmed in the waters off the coast of New Zealand.
I could believe that. Also anything that just doesn't show any land, just off the coast of New Zealand, just ocean in all directions everywhere.
Because then all it takes is you just plop a floating mountain up there somewhere and you're good.
Yeah. That's probably going to be a significant percentage of it.
I'm excited for Michelle. The last time I saw her was in the Star Trek, in the new one.
Yeah, Star Trek Discovery. Yeah.
And I think she can bring a lot of... I don't know what her character is, but if it's anything like that, she can bring a little bit of oomph.
Yeah, absolutely agree there. And I've also seen her in Memoirs of a Geisha, and what was the other one? Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I think.
That was their like breakout role, if I remember, or like the one that introduced her to the West, anyway.
To me, I mean, it's the first movie I saw with her. Playing a character there, and it was a good movie. I liked it. So yeah, looking forward to seeing her in Avatar.
The Avatar films are just a katamari of famous actors at this point. Like, they just keep bringing on big name actor after big name actress after star from Game of Thrones. Like, there's just, it's insane. Like I don't. Part of me is wondering if James Cameron is bringing on all these people because of just sheer star power, and that's how he's going to like collectively shock the public consciousness. Because you can't necessarily go off of like, groundbreaking visuals, like a brand new experience. Because in 2009, Avatar's visuals were sort of revolutionary, and that was sort of the big draw. But I don't know if like quality CGI is going to cut it as far as like, this is how we market to a broad audience. But with all these like, AAA list actors and actresses coming on, it's like, do you like such and such? Well, they're in the Avatar sequels. Like, come see them. Like, I don't know if this is a marketing angle or if he's just picking them because they're, just genuinely talented people and they're like good for the role.
Yeah, I think the latter, because telling from James Cameron's past experience with sequels. He always did very good sequels. I mean, look at Terminator alone. So I think he just wants to do a very, very good job at the Avatar sequel. So I think that would figure, in my opinion at least, to have a set of really talented actresses and actors.
Because James Cameron, to me, has never really been a guy to just pull star power for the sake of pulling star power. Like,
same.
There's some star power in like Alita, for example, but there's also actors and actresses that are completely unknown, and that's even the case here. Like, I didn't recognize any of the child actors.
Well, they're child. They were like, they weren't even
like,
alive when the first Avatar came out.
I mean, there's that, but like, I'm talking about just in general, because you have child actors that have been in like 30 things already.
Yeah, true.
Like, I mean, they are owned by Disney now, and none of them are Disney Channel stars, so can we appreciate that for a minute?
Right, but the casting was done way before Disney purchased Fox.
True, but we can still appreciate it.
Yeah.
We can.
Because that's not true for a lot of things, even, but there is a surprising amount. Like, I don't think anybody knew who. I mean, I certainly didn't know who Jake's actor was until that movie,
same.
until Avatar. Like,
Sam Worthington.
Yeah.
Like
You still don't know who he is.
Yeah, exactly. I know Jake. That's all I know. Like Stephen Lang, I didn't really know until then. And I even feel like some of Zoe's star power kind of started there.
Yeah.
I feel like you're starting to hit a pretty ignorant note here. Like, there were a lot of the other actors in Avatar were pretty well established before coming
Sigourney
onto
Weaver?
that.
Yeah, that's
Sigourney Weaver.
I saw Avatar because Sigourney Weaver was in it.
Yeah, I'm just more saying, like, I feel like he's casting people that are playing roles that that are good for them to play versus just star power.
Right. And I do agree with your original point that Cameron isn't really the kind of person to just pull in star power for the sake of doing so. I mean, even if you just look at Sigourney Weaver's role in Avatar, he had previously worked with her in one of the pivotal films in her career. So, and it's the same deal with Kate Winslet, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Titanic, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I got the name right.
Yep, you nailed it. I only have the IMDb list up, so.
Okay. But yeah, it is actually a collection of people Cameron has worked with before, and also people who are fairly well known. I don't personally believe that he's pulling in people just for star power, but it is a talking point that I have seen circulating around, and is getting increasingly hard to defend as more people are being brought in.
Yeah, but I don't think so, really, because the argument that he brought in an actor from Game of Thrones isn't really an argument that would support that, in my opinion, because I'm pretty much a Game of Thrones geek, besides being an Avatar geek. And I myself had to look up the role he played again because I already forgot. So the character he was playing in Game of Thrones was sort of minor and neglectable, I think.
Mm-hmm. Right, you weren't there for the cast when that news broke. And I remember you lamenting about that later.
Yeah, but I have to admit that the character he played, he did a really good damn job at it. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in the Avatar sequel too, because the role he played in Game of Thrones was pretty on point and very well done. So yeah,
excellent. As I have not seen Game of Thrones, I really can't comment, but everyone who's I've talked to has had similar praise.
Shame.
I've watched one episode.
The cast today is shame.
Yeah.
I've watched one episode, but I made the mistake of watching it with my parents in the room, so that was a lot harder. And it was the first episode, so.
I made the mistake of watching a Game of Thrones episode sort of just randomly in the middle of one of the seasons because the people I were with were watching it and they're super into it and like, oh, we gotta watch this. It's so important that we watch this. And I'm like, cool, I've never seen any of it and don't know anything, but I will sit along and be company while you guys are excitedly gushing about like, oh, such and such said such and such. That's super important. I'm like, I don't know any of these people.
Yeah, you gotta start with season 1, episode 1. There's no way around that.
Oh, absolutely. I know. Anyway, with that shame out of the way, let's move on to... Hold on. I can do a much better segue than that.
See if I go.
Episode intro found.
Yep. Good. We got that out of the way.
At least he's not trying to make the segue a hoverboard.
Right. Speaking of things with a lot of conversational gravity, recently we got a picture of a black hole. And with that, we're going to go to space news with Awe.
That was the better segue?
That was... Oh, excuse me.
I thought it was pretty smooth.
I couldn't resist that. I couldn't resist that one. But yeah. So we got some pretty interesting news recently. We just got the first image of a black hole. First actual image of a black hole.
Which I thought always was impossible because black holes don't emit light because they are so... I don't know.
Yeah,
heavy.
That was my understanding as well.
And that's the crazy part. And a lot of people have probably seen this image. It's been floating around the internet. It's been memed 300 times even at this point. But the reason that this is an incredibly huge deal is because this was the first test of a telescope system called the Event Horizon Telescope. It's a system of 8 radio telescopes specifically designed to try to get images from black holes. The one that we got an image of is a black hole that is at the center of the galaxy. The galaxy's name, Messier 87, excuse me. It has a mass about 6.5 billion times that of the sun, and it's 55 million light years away from us at the moment.
The scale of things in space is
still
it's so crazy to me.
Same.
Like comprehending simply how large 60 billion like as a number is difficult. And then you're applying masses 60 billion times the mass of the sun, which is already an incomprehensibly large thing to me. The Earth is incomprehensibly large to me, and it's this speck compared to that. And then, so something incomprehensibly large, also incomprehensibly far away.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the insane part of it, is just how far. Well, you've seen the picture too, and now that thing is literally 55 million light years away. A light year is the distance that light can travel in a year, which is insanely far.
And because of that, we're also looking 50 million years in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and this is the really crazy part. We're actually looking even farther into the past, and here's why. So one of the biggest quotes that biggest facts that a lot of people bring out about black holes is the gravitational pull is so strong, light can't even escape from it. Yes.
That's my understanding.
Well, a lot of the light that we're getting is light that's orbited the black hole until it eventually could escape that orbit, which means it actually came in contact with the black hole likely millions of years before that even.
And it's just been orbiting the black hole until finally it got slung out.
Yeah, it's like it's in an orbit that's not perfectly stable, but it has a long lifetime.
Okay.
And so after a long enough period of time, it will eventually break through that orbit.
But there's no way of telling how long that light or energy or radio waves have been orbiting this black hole, right?
Yeah, that's the part that kind of stinks, is that we can't really tell. But even a lot of this light could have come from behind the black hole. It could have come from our galaxy, rotate or orbited around it, and then come back. We have no idea, but it's still insane to think about.
someday maybe we will be able to. I hope.
I mean, it's sort of like having a box of strawberries and then throwing them into a blender and then being able to pull out the strawberry goop and say, "Oh yes, this strawberry goop came from this numbered strawberry." Like I'd say it's very difficult for them to ever extract that information.
Yeah, that's the part that kind of stinks. But to kind of give people some kind of idea of scale, there's this really cool analogy I like. So there's something called the Schwarzschild radius. The Schwarzschild radius is a big fancy term that means the radius of the event horizon of something with a certain mass. All you need is the mass to know the Schwarzschild radius.
I like how you said this is a big fancy term for something that calculates the event horizon, which to most people is also a big fancy term.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah. Which the event horizon is the point at which the gravitational pull becomes so strong that light can no longer escape. That's pretty much all the event horizon is. The reason it's called event horizon is because we need light to be able to tell an event happened. So anything that happens beyond the event horizon, we can't tell happened. Mm-hmm. But anyways, this radius, we can actually calculate it for things like the Earth or the Sun. If the Sun became a black hole, it would only be about 2 miles across, or 3 kilometers. Mm-hmm. The Earth would be 9 millimeters, or about a third of an inch across.
Yep.
9 millimeters, wow.
That's like coin size.
Yep. I always heard the object of reference is a peanut.
Yeah, exactly. It's this tiny. So when you think about how insanely dense these things are, that's how
means
dense.
that the mass is reduced to that size, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
If the Earth was a black hole, it would be the size.
Okay.
It's like the Earth itself would be like the size of a peanut.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It would be really difficult to hold, but.
Much less
one dense
that lies very heavy in your stomach.
Yeah, very.
So something I found really fascinating about this black hole image is a lot of people were writing it for being like really blurry or like not really being high resolution, especially compared to some other recent space photography we've gotten like Pluto. But something I read was this is actually one of the highest resolution pictures that we've ever taken of space. It just so happens that the little spot that contained the black hole was just a very small fragment of it. So it's like if you were to zoom in on Google Earth down to like a street corner and say, "Oh, this isn't a very high resolution image." It's like, no, because you're looking at a very small piece of it. And that resolution needed to be that high to get anything of value from that information. The actual like image and information that they needed to draw in using all these telescopes scattered across the Earth was so insanely high res as to be able to capture that thing that is so far away and so hard to detect.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. So one thing that astronomers and astrophysicists use to determine how big something is, at least from our point of view, is what it's called arc seconds and arc minutes, which is if you take a degree, which is the 360 degrees of a circle, if you take 1 degree and divide it into 60, each of those portions is an arc minute. Divide that into 60 and you get an arc second. I mean, little side note, that's actually where parsec comes from. But
oh, really?
Yeah, it comes from the measurement of it's the distance you have to be away so that if from the 2 sides of Earth's orbit, so say you measure it on the summer solstice, and then you measure it on the winter solstice, parsec stands for parallax second. It's when that distance change makes the star shift relative to the background by about an arc second.
Oh, wow. And that's so tiny, too.
Yeah,
but
that's...
like, in space terms, that's massive.
That's actually one of the arguments that people had for this is where Earth, it was not a heliocentric solar system because we couldn't see stars shift. It's because there's none that are within like a parsec away.
Right.
Like the only one that's anywhere close is Alpha Centauri.
Dang.
But the reason I'm bringing all this up is because the angle of the angular size of this galaxy is only about 7 arc minutes per side.
Oof. And that's just the galaxy that houses it.
That's the galaxy that holds this, and the galaxy has millions upon millions of stars in it. And we just looked right at the center.
Insert mind-blown gif now.
This is an audio show, we can.
Yeah.
Right?
I can.
Save it
For
for
YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Just make an explosion sound. That's close enough for me.
Anna, get on it when you edit the video.
Yeah.
But the only time that I got in contact with all this space and black holes and so was Interstellar, where they thought, or where they said that the image of the black hole when he crosses the event horizon was fairly new but scientifically accurate. Is that true?
Yeah. The black hole in Interstellar was built from simulations of black holes. In fact, if I remember correctly, and I'll look it up just to make sure, but if I remember correctly, Kip Thorne, who is a huge proponent and huge contributor to the LIGO experiment that detected gravitational waves, was a chief science contributor on Interstellar.
Yeah.
And so,
Cool.
as far as I know, pretty much everything in that movie is scientifically correct. And yes, that even includes the wormhole, the Einstein-Rosen bridge, which is the fun term that physicists like to use for it because it sounds way cool.
Impressive.
Right?
It's always nice when these sci-fi films adhere to like scientific principles that we have already established. Like that part of the cool things about science fiction is that sort of science fiction and science fact are intrinsically linked in many ways, and when one confirms the other, it's this really cool handshake across perspectives.
Yeah. I mean, there's always the Star Trek is a huge part of the reason for a lot of inventions.
Oh yeah.
And that's something that bringing it back to Avatar, that's something I really like about James Cameron, is that he is a big thing that he stresses is the scientific accuracy of what he talks about.
And that just goes into quality world building.
Yeah, but even then, James Cameron himself is a very science-minded person. He's almost a scientist at this point. In fact, I would go as far as saying he is a scientist at this point.
What can't he do?
Yeah, I mean, he's an accomplished diver. He's done a lot of oceanography, and then he does a lot of conservation efforts, plus his
art, yeah.
Plus his invention side, like the cameras and all of that. Yeah, he's an incredibly science-minded person, and that's something that I really, really appreciate about his movies, is how much he does adhere to that.
Absolutely.
Another question. So, because we just talked about Interstellar, so it would be accurate if you imagine the black hole picture we just saw to in real life look like a lot of like the black hole we saw in Interstellar. Lì'fya.
Yeah, that's what it would look like. Is it if you were close enough to it?
Do all black holes look alike?
To a degree, I would say so. Some of them are different than others. One thing that's really cool is when you have a black hole form in a binary star pair. Sometimes when that happens, the companion star gets close enough that the black hole starts absorbing parts of the star, and you get this really beautiful ring with jets of X-rays coming out the top and bottom.
Those are quasar, blazar, pulsar. I know one of those terms.
Quasar, I think.
Those would be, I believe the blazar is when you have a neutron star doing that.
Okay.
Because quasars are far away. They're still kind of theorized, but the best theory that I've heard is that they are, since they're all found farther away than anything else, they're actually ancient galaxies.
Okay.
With just some of the some weird cool stuff happening there. Pulsars are neutron stars. But when you have that happen, when you have that happen with that binary star pair with a black hole, you get that really cool effect. Mm-hmm. But most black holes, I would say, or at least the majority of ones that we know about, are all relatively the same, just different in masses. The thing that's important about this black hole in particular that I want to touch on is this is a supermassive black hole. What's the difference between a supermassive black hole and a regular black hole? This one's at the center of a galaxy.
Muse wrote a song about it, Adam.
Fair point. The supermassive black holes are just cooler, but no. But there's the theory is that every galaxy has a supermassive black hole at its center. We have one. It's called Sagittarius A.
A star.
And, yep, A star, correct?
Right? Yeah.
That's the one that I believe that's what we refer to as the direct black hole itself, is the A star. And like A is just that general area. But with Messier 87, now we have a direct image of a black hole at the center of a galaxy. It was really only a theory for a while, but now it's pretty convincing that black holes are at the center of most galaxies.
That makes sense to me anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, the moon orbits Earth orbits the sun's orbiting this galaxy, so it has to be orbiting something. Otherwise, it would just careen off into space. But it's still pretty cool to kind of see this theory come back with pretty convincing evidence that that's most likely the case.
So it's basically just the gravitational pull of black holes who holds our galaxy and others together.
It's pretty much it. That and dark matter, but if we got into that would take forever. We could have a cast on just that.
Well, let's wait until in the near future when scientists photograph dark matter.
Yes.
That's definitely going to happen.
Yeah. Eventually, somebody's going to find we've got like the few of the WIMP experiments. That one's fun. Weakly interacting massive particles, or WIMPs.
I love science anagrams.
Right. The treadmill on the space station named after Colbert.
Yes.
Just one last question. Do you think we will ever be able to see our own black hole in the center of our own Milky Way galaxy? Or is it impossible because it's covered by too much matter?
I'm not going to say it's impossible, especially if we did it. Well, it would be really difficult because of the matter that's in the way. There's a lot of dust in the Milky Way.
Yeah. And we're towards the one of the outer arms too, so we have a lot of stuff to look through.
Oh yeah.
Between us and our black hole.
Yeah, we're actually in a really, really good, a surprisingly good spot. We're on the edge of an arm on the edge of the galaxy. So we're really in a really good spot to be able to even see stuff in space.
Nice. For once, being an edgelord is good.
Right?
All right. Anything else? Or I'm just going to move on to the interview.
I could go on for hours, but I'll just
Right. Well,
now I want to read more science stuff.
Right.
I think you just don't want to be interviewed.
No. It is very fascinating, but it's beyond my event horizon. So
Yeah.
That doesn't get a groan? Okay. I see how it is. With that, we're going to move on to our featured member interview. This week, it's going to be Plumps. And with that, take it away, Eana.
Ma Plumps, ma Eana Naum. Who are you?
who am I? What a philosophical question. I'm a member of the German part of the learnna'vi community. I joined the community in 2009, December. So pretty early. One of the first.
About as early as you can get.
Yeah.
Yes. Been around ever since and been doing some stuff.
Some stuff, yeah. Quite humble. So what languages do you speak? Because I know that you don't only speak German, English, and Na'vi, but also others.
Well, it depends on how you define speaking.
Studying,
Studying.
speaking.
Yeah, English, I had French in school, a little bit of Latin, and my personal favorite is Irish. I've been doing this for over 10 years now, on and off. Um, but I had, from an early age on, interest in grammatical structures. So I've been dabbling in Swedish and Finnish and Icelandic and yeah, but never to the point of actually speaking. But more, I was more interested in the structure of the language. That was also the points for other other conlangs like Elvish and Klingon. So I've always looked at the grammar of it, but never to the point of actually speaking it.
So more like a general interest in how that language, particular language, is built and
Exactly.
functions.
Yeah, exactly. It was never. It's always more like a hobby. It was never when I did my studies. Never had the idea to actually go into linguistics, but I had, as part of my university, had like a branch of my English field was linguistics. So that was the only thing where I had a little bit of insight into grammatical structure. I was always good in German grammar, and this was
Unlike
actually
me.
well, and this was actually an entrance point for the community, because at first I was only interested in how the hype was going to go or going to develop. So I found the community quite early. I I don't know how long it took me to create an account, but I was never in for it to learn actually or to speak the language. But at a certain point, there were grammatical questions that I thought I could answer, and the linguistic background helped me in that. And so, through explaining to the German members what a certain grammatical term was, I then had to look up the Na'vi word for it, and I had to look it up again for the next time, and again and again and again. And so the vocabulary almost built on itself. I mean, we had only 500 words back then, but it was a quite natural development in that.
Almost sounds like you were forced to learn the language.
Yes, I was forced. No, but I mean, I had the same as Pamarik and Awe said. Maybe it's like a built-in thing that you want to explain and you want to pass on your knowledge, and if you can help people, then that's a very satisfying thing for me. So it was never, I mean, I wasn't forced. I offered my help. I offered my help, and apparently I had a good way to explain certain things, and then it went on from there.
Yeah, I know that you have taught me a lot of stuff about the language. So in hindsight, irayo.
Well, yeah, the actual group or the language learning group then came later. Yeah, but that's another thing. Yeah.
So yeah, speaking about the German study group, when did that start, and how did it go?
Oh, I think it started on Skype, if I remember correctly, when that was possible to have a group. But the quality was not very good, and it was a very small group. And then we tried to find another channel, and then TeamSpeak came about, and for a while it was like a parallel structure. So I think we communicated for the chat on Skype, and then did voice on TeamSpeak, and developed from there. And I'm so bad with memory because I cannot really remember how it really started, because I was not the one who initiated it. It was a core group of German speakers who said, we should do something with voice. And I also, at this point, because I had a semester abroad, when I came back, Avatar was in cinemas the next day, so I hadn't even heard of it. So and I had no flat, so I was at my parents' at the time. I could not freely Skype and speak, and I had to rely on the internet from the university. So time was an issue.
I see.
Yeah.
And it's worth remembering that this is way before Discord.
Yeah.
Again, this is Skype. This is not even TeamSpeak yet.
Exactly. Yeah. But then because people then wanted to have like a curriculum, or to have things that they could draw upon, I quickly started to translate the Na'vi in a nutshell for the German community. And I mean, there were a few like grammar sheets here and there for certain aspects of the language, but never like a full-fledged out like course or grammar explanation. And at the time, I thought that Na'vi in a nutshell was very concise. It was everything that we had. And so I translated that for the German community, and already did a little bit of extra stuff, because, as you may well know, that certain grammatical aspects are different from if you explain it from an English standpoint or from a German standpoint. So, for example, in English, it's very easy to explain the adverbs, the adverb form, because mostly, in most cases, it's just the ly. And I think that was how it was explained in Na'vi in a nutshell. Well, in German, you cannot do this, because the adjective and adverb have the same form, so you cannot distinguish them. So you have to explain it in other words, and that's what I did and what I contributed to this.
But you contributed a lot more to the community. Not only the translation of Na'vi in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, once I started to translate the Na'vi in a nutshell, then the project of learnna'vi came about. It was also from, I think it was someone from Austria, if I'm not mistaken.
Wasn't it Tukan?
No, it was
some
not.
other guy.
It was not
Oh,
Tukan.
okay, interesting.
It was someone else. He then took over, and we developed it together in this group, in the study group, and several people contributed. A few people wanted to make audio recordings and all that stuff. And well, we all know it. The longer it took, the more people vanished and were not so interested in it anymore. So it was left to me.
Yeah.
Mostly. I mean, at this point, I have to admit, I took it upon me to say, okay, I will take this over and be responsible for the translation. At this point, the Taronu dictionary was translated by someone else, So we had this going on parallel. But at some point, I think I took that over as well. So
Yeah.
I know my responsibility, and I know because if you translate, if you are responsible for the translation of the dictionaries, then you are responsible how this word is perceived. And I
In
had
German, yeah.
I had more than one instance where I could not easily translate something into German because we had no examples, and it was just the word in English. And if you don't have an example, sometimes you cannot translate it easily. Yeah, and that's the difficulty with that. Yeah, and this was also the time when I first had the idea about the annotated dictionary. Because I was never really satisfied with the Taro New Dictionary. We had all the words, we had very important information about in verbs like the infix position and transitive, intransitive, and so on. But sometimes it's very different to have a word and then to translate a sentence. So, especially with things like adpositions, they can be different than from your source language. So, and I thought it would be helpful to have example sentences for the words, for the entries, so that you
Absolutely.
see how a word is actually used.
I think the annotated dictionary is absolute gold.
Yes, it's one of the most useful resources we have.
Yeah.
Thank you. It took long enough. Yeah.
I imagine.
It was a little side project at the beginning because I'm doing it in LaTeX. So it was just a project to hone my own skills in LaTeX. So and it took a while, but yeah, I'm very proud of it, and I'm still working on it. Yeah.
You can and should be proud of it, I think.
Absolutely.
And speaking about the language group, when we had a very stable language group in TeamSpeak, and that went on for a while with always people coming in and going. But it was a core group, and I think from what I experienced or from what I saw at the time, I think we still are the most stable group. Awe, please correct me if I'm wrong, but
You are. I'm not Tawe, but Learn Group has endured for an incredibly long time.
Yeah. In several iterations. Yeah.
That's because Germans are stubborn.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. But I right now I'm not that active. Eana can say something about that. But at a certain point, I don't know if you have this. I wanted to ask that in the language method. Is I had at a certain point I had the feeling that if you start over and over and over again and try to explain something from the beginning, I myself had the feeling that I am not developing my language skills further because you were always stuck at a certain stage of the language.
I get that. I don't know if that was directed at me, but yeah, I totally get that.
Same here. I've been feeling that exact feeling.
So not that I'm not proud of the language group. I think I can say that I taught as much so that other people could take over. And I think that's
Cough.
the idea, right? So
Yeah.
you have people who then explain it and to other people. That it's not always one teacher or one person to do it. So I'm very happy that I could then say, okay, that's it for now. Other people can do what I did, and from time to time I barge in and listen and and try.
I'm always happy when you do.
Yeah. And it's also, I mean, with all the hobbies and especially now with Irish, because I've been doing it for so long, and then I neglected and doing something here and something there, and then the interest is always skipping or flipping, and right now I'm more into Irish again, so I try to brush up on that. Yeah.
Well, always eating the same kind of food gets boring after a while, so you need something to
Yeah.
something different for a little while. But,
Yeah, but the very dangerous thing is that when I'm sitting in class and I want to say something in Irish, the first thing that comes to mind is Na'vi.
funny.
I have that problem whenever I try to recall whatever rudimentary Japanese I had from high school. I'm always just like, oh yeah, what's the word for eat again? It's like yom. It's like no.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Dabalu.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. But even though we've been talking quite a bit about the accomplishments and things you have contributed to our community, I know there's still more we haven't covered yet.
Like
The
what?
thing
Needless to say, Plumps, you are one of the most influential members
Absolutely.
in the history of the Na'vi language.
Absolutely.
What?
I know.
How?
Because you've done so much for so many people here, and you've created so many materials. I mean, the thing I just hinted at was also your audio lessons you had going on for a while,
Right.
which
I
were called.
I always forget them.
Yeah, see, so I have to remind you.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's
The audio
true.
lessons.
Yeah.
Pivot and eat.
Which is
Solane.
actually a rip-off of an Irish podcast, which was called Get the Back, which it's the same concept, so that you have little pieces of vocabulary and then build up on that. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, because I always thought that speaking it, as we said in the language learning episode, that I thought speaking it is, and from the standpoint of the movie, is that it is a spoken language. I thought that it would be beneficial for that. Yeah,
Absolutely. I learned from your lessons. Pivot and eat, definitely. I enjoyed listening to them, so I felt sorry when you stopped recording them, but then you started with Senumvi. Kifyak, Senumvi learnna'vi.
Yeah, that's true. Technically, People and Eat is still on hiatus because I never officially finished it. But I was at a certain point when I didn't had the right idea for how do I want to develop this further. I was and Senumi, the YouTube stuff was, I don't know how that came about. I thought I had that's another one. I stumbled across videos about Korean, and it was a weekly Korean, and this person explained a simple concept per week. So I don't know, a certain aspect of Korean grammar. I don't know about it, but the concept I thought was interesting because it was not a lesson from you start at a certain easy grammar point and then go about becoming more and more difficult. But it was
it's
just
not a curriculum.
Yeah, it was one topic pulled out, and everything you could find about that would be concise in this 10 minutes, 15 minutes episode. So that was a concept I thought was very interesting. And
it is interesting. Yeah. I mean, a little side tangent. I remember when I was first learning and I was watching some of your videos, I was always like, why aren't, like, this doesn't seem like a curriculum. It feels like very scattershot, very just, oh, here's just a random piece of information. It's like, this doesn't really relate to any of the other like lessons that you've given so far.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Mentioning that you had that inspiration from like, oh, here's just a little bit of information about this, and just being laser focused on those individual topics, that actually makes a lot of sense. And I'm not saying it's not useful. It's absolutely, your videos are absolutely very useful. And they're especially useful if like the grammar concept comes up in conversation. It's like, oh, here's a video about this topic.
Yeah, go watch it.
Yeah,
it's interesting to see that was the inspiration, because that's like, that really does come through. Like, it makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah. The title is misleading, of course, and I recognize it now. But at the time, I thought, oh, how could I? Did we have a word for week at this point? Probably, but not weekly. So I couldn't use that. So and I didn't want to pin myself down to say, oh, I will produce a video every week, which I did for a time, but not now. So I didn't want to be so that strict and say I have to admit to the schedule. And so and I know the title is misleading, but and by now the last few videos that I did, I left out the leNa'vi, or the lesson number, because then I thought it's easier to recognize that it's not a curriculum but more grammatical points. Yeah.
So
I talk too much.
No, you don't.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
like,
you did so much.
There's like a lot of historic stuff here.
Yeah.
Like, you've been here since the before times.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me tell you something. In my days.
You young whippersnapper. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I should be like writing some of this down to put into like a history of Ellen book at some point.
Yeah,
that would be cool. But yeah, okay, final question for you, Plumps. If you could ask Paul Frommer, I know you've been emailing with him quite frequently, but Paul Frommer or James Cameron, maybe, if you could ask one of them one question, what would that be?
Oh, you think by now, how often have we done this question, that I would come up with something, but I honestly don't. That's very hard. I mean, I will put it out into the universe, because I tried it many times and I have not gotten a satisfying answer. Is for the remaining verbs of the very first bunch of words that we have. There are still some that we don't know the transitivity of. So I would like to have that cleared.
That's a very fitting question from you, since you've just been around since the time of like ambiguous transitivity in verbs, and that's just the fact that still persists.
Yes.
Wonderful.
I mean, one of the great honors was to actually meet with Paul, and at this point, because we've known each other so long, I think we can call each other friends. I've been emailing with him for a very long time now. So I mean, all the questions that I have and that are so burning. I ask right away. Sometimes I get an answer, sometimes I don't. But I think one of the biggest mind-blown things was Nume.
Oh yeah.
Because that was the thing that bugged me so much, because all the indication, everyone up to this point was using it transitively. And I mean, we were at a point where we had to dig out the grammatical information from texts or snippets that we got. And from my linguistic background, I look at the data and then I say, okay, this is such and such. And there was never an indication that Nume was transitive. So I said, I need to know this now. And I asked for an example, and he actually said, no, it's intransitive. And everyone was, what?
Yeah. Going crazy to this day about it, yeah.
It's intransitive, drops mic.
Yeah.
It's still a meme in our community, so.
Yeah.
Nume is intransitive. Riveizahu. Etzauhu.
Speaking of that weird alien cat language, we're going to move on to our discussion learnna'vi section. As always, we are prompted by a word of the cast. This week's cast word is txampay. It means ocean. It's literally a lot of water.
Big water, yeah.
Big water, yes. So with that, luwaru de palm.
Root e palm.
Pivanko, kafyak. So same a aingal txampay tisrag.
Strane.
Zakar behör.
Gr a lolu evimi hoe. Ulte fientu. Lolu. Li.
Mi pate pam lugar.
Damn.
Hamalo aingal txampay ti same a behör.
Is it dumb? Wary. Is it dumb?
So, very
Come.
Kamras is it?
Where are you? Zizitama.
Ningaisrak?
Sran.
Ha kautu kelku kesi sim txampay.
Wary ke. Nikeft o.
Nikeft.
Talunas sivunu waru fwa keku si sim txampay.
Ja, leervu waye te palm ha ainga ne engaru sunu txampay kefyak.
Sarare net aan.
Pamarik kehe.
Sran en de hound. Hamarik.
Nikeft o wedi well kelku mehelku a ham we txampay sim sla ke tsole a well txampay ti anker. Hamalo oe well tsole a txampay ti Mrazitatam. Strane zisito zisita avo moon da terok will kelkuti ampai sim me Washington me Massachusetts kelkus serio se sle que samo well que solo well awe ampai ne tan ankar net an
ute sakr srake ampai lei fu lo lei ngaru
for sero tampai ne kelle weru net an sle leNa'vi Ampairi faheo on that weru.
Ning ngai?
ning Isaac
Strane
so
kesuno weru faheo ampai
so slow Weri faheu suruwaru mit an
Weru net eng.
Weru net dang.
te keu ngaru
Weri le awa u opu net opusio lu ne taluna tampai lu uk nit an lu fganwer eum neat
strane sai se efu smon weru ute what's up fuera
Zuntiva
pait el Pailu kim an bivelt ewe Svola sarane pait el wea el tour que tet nkc Mac ute und va sorry see hamalo well by teo tamok lu for sreker mo ara skatetalk sla mi Florida im solo muel alu oe se smukewe im solo Florida ne. Ut txampay sero txampay paiteo ne. Stamarsem muel aisumti.
Senne fuel.
Sle nikeft saisum ydi fgan waru on vatnit thing.
Sra ngaruti awar. Sayu lu on that.
Okei, laro sivi. Tsaru.
Sra ne. Krea fkol tsula. Me.
Srane.
Det får mi way txampay ydi urse pam ne au. Fgan Gansilza. Lord, sran. Swala well sal u nilam.
Ngaruti awar urs pam strane. Pam I whale du lornit an.
Sle hufwa sur se verheu. Se zier.
Zeer strak.
Strane.
Sran zier fgan waru eku.
Strake enga.
Oh, weep, golan, weep.
Oui.
Oui.
Zier fgan weep.
Strane.
I verheu se I sur ne au kelu weep. Ne sung zier sun givan weep. Wem wewe rut ma gariupa.
Strake enga aulie slelle me txampay.
Srane. Stum tolerku.
Srane. Tzakem soli oel te txampay aweu lengu. La lengu.
Strane.
Furia.
Kehe.
Furia slele me txampay oet opusi ni italuna stum terku. Kra lolu evi afmoli slivele me txampay. Strane. Taluna ketsun slivele netsanoe. Vaise.
Strane ketsun fra eywa'eveng.
Strane.
Besenge tolk ngeje sasemi.
Neden strak.
So long way.
Herangham strak.
Kehe. Haunu weti. Holaunu se zolong weti. Taluna mirejo, Sle hamalo a slolele me txampay, a solunu erunet an. Solopuel t'anlok eti alu Croatia. Ulte txampay a tsa t'anlok emi lunaror ulte tsulunue slivele niftue sa tampami. Taluna kelulu kea awasociep. Kea leweop atsaue.
Uite ai swireri opuke solina.
Kehe. Tsole a wel hiia faiwang ti a nalorf kolan. Ulte sau pruteuene fua ninsa foti.
Ia pum weru opu kesi. Se lu me txampay lu ana paya Yeoh kefia?
Strane.
Ayek paywang leherap nitan.
Milte.
Na kenong jellyfish.
Strong.
Sharks.
Sa iwang opu si weru nitan.
Paya.
Tutslam.
Strane.
Ha me ora slalmele oe im. Ora amek. Ketão. Or ook.
Yes. Tislu sele ngazik lu txampay me. Taluna txampay rerik nitan.
Strane. Strane fua slele mit txampay tsunslivu leherap nitan. Sat omomue.
Que exemplo te fnawetu oe lu.
Piu?
Fnawetu oe lu.
Fnawetu.
Strane.
Kismanuer tsaleu.
Fnawetu.
Now what do down.
Mikitslam.
Kehe.
Txampayeri oe fnawetu. Lu.
Solam.
Pu
Tolel.
tutslam
Aunaru
lu nitan.
kelu kea ilu ha ke zenenga opusi.
Malker wel relit arusik alu unuterantok amuve tsole tsakar ke opuke si weru txampay.
Kif bilu lì'fya taluna. Eywa'eveng me lu nalutsa. Kif jak. Pajoanga tsalfrato. Sle furia nirin txampay uniltirantok me amuve oes referei neprte.
Werin teng. Layatsu na lor nitan. Hase sisrak.
Strane.
Sick.
Sran.
Sick.
Sick.
say.
We just definitely need to open every podcast with san and then end with
San?
If anyone needs to make a new Avatar podcast, definitely call it Potefo-san.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's actually a good name for a podcast. Sansick.
Something.
Anyway, the Eana Mokri podcast is now finished, for this episode anyway, but the series is by no means finished. Be sure to tune in next time for more of the Avatar goodness. Tsu'tey's Path is coming out this coming Wednesday, issue number 4, so be sure to catch that. I don't know if we'll be talking about it next cast. Typically, we skip a cast before we talk about them, but the timing might line up where we might be talking about the comic, so read up on that. Thanks for the conversation, everybody. This was a good cast. With that, hailovai.
Thank you.
Hailovai.
Sakurvaiko.
We did it.
Yay.
Sola.